Well, I'm on my way to the meadows. Foggy, kind of, not a miserable morning. It looks like it's going to break. It's supposed to be sunny at the meadows today, but it is foggy, and it was certainly this morning on my way to the border. I went over a list last night, just went through the entire landscape of the stable. All the horses, the entire stable, and looked for horses that maybe I had updates on. Right? And maybe I touched on them this week in the weekly videos, but touching on them and singling them out in a much smaller list, I think two different things. So any updates that we had for any horses, this obviously was predicated by the news that Punch the Clock was going to be bred, who she was going to be bred to, how that would take place, what that would look like, how you could get involved, or how people that maybe weren't that interested in staying in as owners of a broodmare, because this isn't the same as their other broodmares. This is totally different situation. You know, we have our broodmare band that we have that are ours, right? These horses are staying inside the stable, and Punch is full if it gets to that point, may also. But there is a lot more at play here with this particular filly than any of the horses before. Certainly well outside my purview. I've spent the better part of the last hour and a half just maybe calling a couple of breeders and asking their opinions, waiting to hear back from one in particular that, well, truthfully speaking, is where we got the breeding to Walner for Punch the Clock. So as you can imagine, when I say the word Walner and we're talking about King of the North sister, it's quite an endeavor. And as I said, a little outside my scope, and I wanted to make sure that I had, at least at the very least, all the information I possibly could. So I will start. Actually, this video was born from two places. One was Punch the Clock, and two, I sat down at the table and picked up the mail yesterday in Ontario, opened up a wonderful letter from Michigan telling us that Sunset Acres Girl was 2-year-old trotting filly of the year in Michigan, that we were going to be recognized. She was going to be recognized for this. And I wanted to make sure, I told Kelly, I told Lauren, I wanted to make sure that we have a contingency there. I don't really know what my calendar looks like. I believe it's January the 20th, if I'm not mistaken, in Lansing, Michigan. I want to go, for sure. I want to go, and maybe Amy and the kids will go. I have absolutely no idea. I just got this information last night, but I thought at the very least it should be brought to you immediately. We have a lot of Michigan clients and a lot of clients that own Sunset Acres Girl that may be in that area also. So really cool. Our first foray into Michigan, and we had the 2-year-old trotting filly of the year. Be great if we could duplicate that with either one of the two colts that we have this year also. So some great news coming out of Michigan for the stable to start the 2024 season. Now, we got that out of the way. Updates. There's a lot of updates. Not particularly where there's a horse sick or a horse that's off a week or moving around. Everything I could think of that were 2-year-olds and older. You know, the yearlings. Some of them have been castrated. Some of them had OCDs removed, but they're all back going. So I don't really think there's any need to make a big deal about that at this point. But some of the 2-year-olds are ready to qualify. Let's start with the racehorse. All gas, no brakes. Now, this is in alphabetical order also. It's the only way I can do it. All gas, no brakes did not get in this week. I'm almost tempted to put all gas, no brakes up for sale. Simple reason being, there's only one real class for him to race at Mohawk, where he could go on the track and be a competitive horse. Every time he goes on the track, I think he's like 3-1, 2-1, even money. It's a great class for him, and I see they only had 4 entered. Now, did they only have 4 entered because they raced on Tuesday, back Monday, and maybe people missed the draw? It's possible, I suppose. They did have a full field last week, so I highly doubt that the horses just disappeared. So when it comes to all gas, no brakes, do we wait a week or do we do both? We wait a week and then potentially put him on preferred. I do have some horses I'm toying with the idea. The horses that aren't cutting it, they're going to leave, because now the 2-year-olds are coming in, and at the very least we need the stalls. At the very most, we've gone far enough in regards to some of them. I can think of 2 or 3 right now that are on that list, and they'll have their opportunity to get off that list, but it'll only be in a 1 or 2 start scenario at the very most. So all gas, no brakes. We will likely wait for that class to come about, which would be a week from Monday. And if it doesn't, we may end up just putting him up for sale. Carter Michael Dio, I was a little disappointed. So the whole plan was and is to take Carter Michael Dio to Pennsylvania. The reason being because they wrote him out of the non-winners of 2, but not more than 4. He has 5 wins. And I did not want to race him against Locatelli again. I was pretty vocal about that. I think that it was unfair for him to do that, and I know that the race office couldn't fill the classes. So I pick up the sheet. Didn't pick up the sheet. Went online and looked. On Monday, one of our clients messaged and said, has Carter Michael Dio left for Pennsylvania yet? I said, no, he's leaving soon. They said, well, they opened that class up at Mohawk. Non-winners of 2, not more than 5. Went with 2 9-horse fields and never once called and looked for his entry. Had no problem using him in whatever class they could concoct to put him in over the last 3 weeks. But when they opened the class that he could fit, and he raced against those horses before, not a word was said. Only a generic text being sent out saying, hey, we're short horses on Monday. It's not their job to call us. I guess it's not their job. I guess it depends how you look at it. At the same token, I had no idea that they were going to stretch the non-winners of 4 to the non-winners of 5, nor did Dominic, or he would have been in. So part of me is a little even more angry over the situation, and a little disappointed that we didn't take the opportunity to take advantage of that. Having said that, he will be heading to Pennsylvania and racing in the non-winners of 2, but not more than 5, the same class. At the Meadows. So that's where we're at with Carter Michael Dio. A little disappointed, certainly not in Dominic, but I would like to see the race office reach out and say, hey, we need a horse, and your horse fits this class. Would you like to race him in there? But I guess the easy answer to that is they're not obligated to, but I would have been nice to see him. Either way, it's not the end of the world. Collector is going to be racing with hobbles on. I believe Harry's going to school him tomorrow with hobbles on, and then we'll see how he goes. Again, another horse I would like to just see him put in to go, but you know, he is a young horse. We got to remember that too. He's got very few starts. Very, very talented horse. So much so that we had bought his full brother, Dominion, who we'll talk about in a second. But Collector, I just think he's got a very bright future. Yeah, I would like to see him in, but he'll be in next week. Crantini. So I thought Crantini was a little flat the other day. I told you guys that we were going to take his blood and scope him. Under scope, there was some mucus found, maybe a couple of flecks of blood, but nothing serious. But all the story was told in his blood the next day. His GGT, so I tell you guys now, in Ontario, in Ohio, in the Meadows, when the veterinarians run their blood at the vet labs, they all have different ratios, right? One will be acceptable limits will be 0 to 50, or 0 to 60, or 0 to 36. 36, I have no idea why they come up with 36, but at the Meadows, the level, the acceptable level is 0 to 36. That's your GGT level. I have no idea how they come to that number. All I know is that Crantini's was 85. Now, I've seen horses race poorly at 35, 40. Enzo Aguayo's was 54, which was not shocking at all. I knew as soon as I come off the track, a combination of the deep track, the flip-flops. The only thing I didn't know was there any mucus or blood found in him, which there wasn't. Very, very small amount of mucus. But what there was found was a high GGT. He's struggled with this a little bit since he was 2, so hopefully Tim can nip that in the bud. Well, before this afternoon. They had found out last week, so I'm sure he can. But Crantini's was 85. So we've been treating this GGT, this high liver, as best we can, but I'll be the first to say that it doesn't come down quickly. It takes time. The last time I saw a reading this high was 3-4 years ago, and we ended up having to rest the horse, which I don't really mind. He's had a long 3-year-old season anyway, and we did buy him potentially longer term, so it wouldn't bother me that much. But I guess we'll see how he races today before we make any decision in regards to certainly what we're going to do with Crantini. Dominion was a horse that we liked very much. This is Collector's full brother. He qualified as a 2-year-old in Philadelphia, and then was sent out to a farm. We had bought the horse off On Gate. About 3 weeks ago, and they said he was a little hyper. I said, well, just castrate him then. Mike told me he had the biggest set of testicles he'd ever seen on a 2-year-old. So did they play a role, both physically and mentally? I would say probably yes. I would say they probably did. So we'll see. He's been castrated now. He'll be heading to Ontario. I think we'll just send him right over to Harry to train him back down. He had qualified end of September, so you're looking at 2 months of minor work. It'll likely take 4 or 5 weeks to get him ready to go. Easy in the turns, another filly. I didn't think she raced horrible the other day, but I am interested to see how she's going to race this week. If she's not going to be a prospect filly, at least like some sort of stake filly, then we'll likely race her in a couple overnights and move her. Again, this is not the time of year to be keeping around, you know, London Flamborough horses. If they're just going to be B-track horses and overnight horses on those B tracks, then they'll likely be B-track horses for someone else. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Electric Line, same line with this guy. I'm probably going to bring him over to Ohio, Pennsylvania, race him once or twice and put him up for sale. We have done the best we can. You know, I know Harry liked him training down. There's no doubt there's talent there, but lots of horses have talent. You know, if they choose not to use it the appropriate way or not to use it at all at times, then there's not much we can do for them. You know, no doubt in my mind at the end of his 3-year-old season, you know, or maybe somewhere in the summer or the fall, Electric Line may come forward. I have no idea if he will or he will not, but we will. If he doesn't come forward in his next start or so, then, you know, that will be somebody else's story to tell, not ours. Enzo Guayo, as I said to you guys a minute ago, a high GGT. I've seen this with this guy before. I can tell when he's not right sharp and going up to the gate and not uncontrollable, but almost a touch rude going to the gate. That's when he's at his best. When he's docile going to the gate and just plants his nose up on there, he's just not having a great day. And, you know, his river doesn't run too deep, right? And what I mean by that is he can be a little soft sometimes, and when things aren't going his way, it's likely not going to go your way. So we'll see how it plays out today with this guy. Now, Tim is known for a week that his liver is high, so he's been treated fairly aggressively for a week now. We'll see how it plays out today. I'll know more after he and Crantini races. Greatest Ending, I know I told everybody he tied up. He did tie up, and it wasn't nearly as bad as we had thought. I had asked Jason Merriman and Jason McGinnis to train him Saturday. We had left on Friday. They said they trained him in 55 in the mud. He trained very strong. He's in the backup class, smaller field on Monday. Pretty favorable spot for Greatest Ending, so we'll see how he races on Monday. Hallie in the Clouds. Now, Dominic has 3 or 4 2-year-olds getting ready, as we do over here in Ohio. Hallie in the Clouds is getting ready, and Dominic said of the ones he's training down, he feels she's the best, and I hope so. She was one of our best trainers at the early part of last winter. He said she's getting stronger, better, and he's been happy with her. Now, I'll be completely honest with everybody. I have not sat behind Hallie in the Cloud since she came back in, so I can't tell you with my own 2 eyes or my hands how she feels, but I trust Dominic's opinion of her, and he said that she is training good. She should be ready. I'm going to say if he's been in 2.7, 2.8, 2.9, should be ready to school within the next 2 weeks, and then we'll have a real look at what Hallie in the Clouds has been up to. International Spy, same thing, been in 2.7. He said he might be 1 week behind Hallie and in those horses and getting ready. I don't know why we didn't get into it, but I think Dominic thought that he was just maybe 1 week to the south of where those horses are, and thought that he might need just a little bit more time. I said, there's no point rushing. We're here now. Just do it right, get him ready, and tell me how he is. Kenobi, a horrible race yesterday. Now, Tim scoped him. He did have some mucus. He had no blood, but I really didn't feel that it was a good mile. I mean, we've trained that horse faster in Northfield. His qualifiers were decent. His race last week was decent. Not really enthused about what I saw yesterday, so we may end up trying to find a softer spot for him at Northfield Park if we can. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out with we'll see how that plays out with Kenobi over the next week or two. See how it plays out right away, actually. Looks like Money has been training great. Now, I talked to Harry well before Christmas. He said he'd been at 15. I suspect he'll be around 210 this week. So he's, now, keep in mind, this isn't a 2-year-old. You don't have to train them in 2.2 and then qualify them and race them. This guy is an open trotter. So although you hear 215 or 210 and say, geez, he might be close, he may still very well be a month away. But we want this horse at his very best, especially he's coming back at a good time. The track's going to be firm all winter long. You know, the class is going to race in a little watered down. Not that he needs him to be, but coming back off a minor injury or any injury at all, and then trying to get back at top form is not an easy thing to do for any athlete, horses included. So I would say Harry's probably going to need about a month with this guy to get him really rocking. Miss Rocket Ali qualified yesterday, first qualifier. We're going to come back with another one. Jason Merriman said she was very strong in the face going through the wire. Great qualifier from her on a really crappy day. Her, Rito's Lady, and Walter's Keepsake. We'll talk about them in a minute. But Miss Rocket Ali was very, very good yesterday. We will come back with another qualifier with her. Oh Snap You is very close. We've trained her 2.6 twice now. Likely train her Friday. We'll go back again and maybe 2.3, 2.4, see how she feels. We'll go with Chance and her, see how they both feel. If they feel good, they may qualify next Wednesday. If not, they may just train again and qualify the following Wednesday. That'll really be up to them. Both Jason's and Eric actually went with No Chance. Nil said he was great. So that's where we're at with those two in particular. But I was really happy with what I saw from Oh Snap You. More importantly, not what I saw, but what was reported to me the next day. She trained, and then the very next day I trained her hard, and the very next day they said she was absolutely perfect. That's what I want to hear. Very happy to hear that with Snap. No Chance in Hill, as I said, same thing with this guy. He trained great last week. Again, we'll likely train them tomorrow and see how they train, and then they'll make the decision for us on what goes on moving forward. No free lunch, and a couple of people asked me, is he not supposed to be ready? He was. Stacy said with the weather, the track is a little soft, and you know, there's days they can't go out. When you're dealing with a suspensory, you're trying to rehab, the last thing you want to be doing is training hard on a soft track. This time of year, we planned on it being frozen, right? It's supposed to be wintertime. Instead, it's plus 11 right now. For those of you, that is what? Times like 52 or 3 or something. 51. 50. It's warm. And when you have rainfall and track freezing a little bit overnight in some places and being thawed in the day, it does not make for a great surface. So after talking to Stacey, it still sounds like he's a couple of weeks away. I told her, for the love of God, don't rush him. You know, he'll get there, but last thing we want to do is injure him on his way back rehabbing. So use your best judgment, and I think she does. I trust Stacey. I'm sure she'll do fine with lunch. Punch the clock. I told everybody briefly. I messaged our clients last week. It was getting to a point where I would have to make a decision, because it made, to have a horse as good as Punch the Clock. Now here's the thing. Obviously, I'm biased, but when I look at Punch the Clock, I see Tactical Landing is one of the most sought-after sires right now. Tactical Landing, Sons and Daughters are. The broodmare is by Tactical Landing. She would be on the forefront of that, right? She was second crop, I think, Tactical Landing. Maybe even first crop. No, she was second crop Tactical Landing, I believe. But there's not many Tactical Landing broodmares out there, obviously. They're just too young. She is also, that makes her sought after to begin with. She's also a sister to King of the North, who's one of the most sought after sires right now in North America. Standing in Ontario, syndicated for millions of dollars after his 3-year-old season. The place you want to be. And you can look and say, well, okay, King of the North. Her sister wasn't a great racehorse, but was the broodmare of the filly that won the Hamiltonian Oaks last year. Her name is rattling around in my head. I can never on call just say, okay, that's what the name is. It was Instagram Model is the name of the mare. So the filly. So Instagram Model, one of the top fillies from last year, and out of a sister to Punch the Clock. So now you have Punch the Clock's family entirely. Now you have those branches. Now the fillies are proving that they're good broodmares. Also, I mean, we bought Punch the Clock for all that money before King of the North won the Breeders' Crown, before he was, you know, the best 3-year-old on the planet last year. We had bought her before that. I need to take that in just a second. So Punch the Clock, I worked my butt off walking around trying to get the best breeding for her. Maybe not the best cross, but when you're talking about the outside looking in, the Walner breeding is the one you're going to want, right? People had said Chimpanzee, but put yourself in my shoes. Chimpanzee, I think, is a great sire and is going to be a great sire. But what if he's not? What if he has a very flat 2-year-old season with his 2-year-olds this year? One, that would be bad for us because we have 3 of them. 2, now we have a mare that is not just a brood mare in our band. She would be the crown jewel of what we're trying to do, and actually outside almost the purview of the stable, because of who she is and the stature she demands. And again, this is all, I might be biased, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a perspective of this and I'm missing out there. And that is why I had reached out to a number of breeders. That phone call you just heard come in was from one of them. I'm going to reach out to Tim in a minute and talk to him about this very thing. So a very complex situation, but I did secure the Walner breeding. It cost me a lot of money up front. Us, a lot of money up front. So there's going to be shares of Punch the Clock moving around over the next month, probably in the stable. But I think she's far from not doing great things for the stable. She's going to be a good horse. I have every reason to believe she was super competitive training down. Her one start she got injured in was a very impressive mile in the mud, 58, 27-4 in her first lifetime start. She was going in the right direction. And we could probably get her to the races. But given all that I just told you, it almost feels like we're risking a lot to forego a breeding season with a very talented filly who looks like she has a bright future in the breeding shed. And that's my take on Punch the Clock. Ready for Landing is schooling tomorrow. Tomorrow I can't wait to get the report from him. I love this horse. You guys know that. I cannot wait to hear about Ready for Landing schooler tomorrow. Resolute Bay. Here's what happened with Resolute Bay. I messaged Harry after the races, said great job with Locatelli, he looked great. Any feedback from Chris? I already knew that they'd scoped him and he showed a little mucus. He said, didn't get away well, showed a lot of mucus. You know, Chris went around with him. I said, you know, this guy here just might need a little shake-up. I'm going to think about it. Let's think about it, but I might bring him over to Pennsylvania. Well, it never dawned on me because of the holiday season. The draw for Monday, which was 6 days later, was the next day. I didn't talk to Harry about it again. He left the horse in to go. So he comes out in the sheet. Now James is driving him with the rail. I'm going to say right now to everybody, win, lose, or draw, he's coming to Pennsylvania. We already drew his blood. His papers couldn't be back before the weekend anyway. So he's coming there, but it's going to have to be after Monday. My apologies for the mixed communications, but it was the holiday season and a little bit of a screw-up in between there. I apologize for that. That is what's happening with Resolute Bay. Rito's Lady, she qualified yesterday. I think we're just going to put her up for sale. I think she, you know, she's going to do well in a Saratoga or a Buffalo, and she's going to get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, and I think she'll be an okay filly, but is she going to be a stake filly? Probably not. Can't go any further down this road. She's qualified. She qualified okay. I think we're going to move her on. Stay Special is into school tomorrow, I believe. This filly, by all accounts, from what Johnny has told me, has been training unbelievably good. Not shocking. Filly was sore when we got her. Took a mark of 54, sore. You know, we gave her all the time, rehabbed her properly, brought her back. They say she's sound as a dollar. It's not shocking that she's ready to rock. Very interested to see how this filly does. Tex Song Soprano just wasn't coming back in 6 days with this guy. You know, I talked to Jason. He said, yeah, I hadn't talked to you about it, but you know, yeah, the hours to 10 filled. It'll fill next week. I just don't think that I wanted to come back. I didn't think you want to come back in 6 days. I guess we should have talked about it. This is not the end of the world. He's not going anywhere. The horse looked great. I thought he looked great in the Open the week before. That class of hours to 10 to be a great fit for him. At some point, you're going to see him go to Yonkers, I believe. 3rd and 6th, training now good again in a Missouri type horse. Show me. Show me how good you're doing, then we'll go from there. Time is on my side. It's been in 2.5 last half of a minute. A couple of more hard training trips, but really like the son half. Really like what we see from this guy. He's a giant, and he's training down very good. Unbeatable Kemp. A little bit of a hiccup with him the last 2 weeks. He can make his way over to Pennsylvania. We'll expand on that over the next week. I don't want to get into it right now. Walter's Keepsake qualified great yesterday. I know 2-1 or something last quarter in 31, but if you watch the qualifier, it was a very good qualifier. You'll see him show up at the Meadows next week. So that is your update. You're all updated A to Z. All the updates I could think of I brought to you. I will talk to you all very soon. I hope you're having a wonderful end to the best season of the year, which is Christmas season. Take care, everybody.